Namo Amida Buddha. The four profound thoughts which turn the mind towards Amida Dharma by Reverend Joshua Adrian Celia. Samsara is suffering. Among the neighbouring hells of the hell of lamentation there are the hell of fire and worms, where those who have sold alcohol diluted with water fall into this place and, quote, their bodies are afflicted with the 404 diseases. The power of one of these diseases is such that in a single day and night it would destroy all the inhabitants of the 4 islands. From the bodies of the victims come out worms which eat up the skin, flesh, and marrow. End quote. The place called Fire, Cloud, Mist, where, quote, those who have forced women to drink alcohol and then violated them, bringing them to shame, fall into this hell. And they are tortured with a flame which is 1,200 feet deep. The hell wardens lay hold on them and force them to walk through this fire until they are consumed from head to foot. When they seem utterly destroyed, the hell wardens call out, revive, revive, and they come to life again. Then they drive them through the fire again, just as before, and thus without any intermission in their suffering. This is kept up for immeasurable hundreds of thousands of years. End quote. Among the neighbouring hells of the hell of great lamentations there are a place called receiving, bearing, suffering, where, quote, the sinners' mouths and tongues are nailed together with hot iron nails so that they cannot cry out. End quote. The place called receiving, limitless, suffering, where, quote, the hell wardens cut out the victims' tongues with hot iron shears. After they've been cut out, they grow on again, but only to be cut out again. They also pull out their eyes, just as they do their tongues, and without any intermission they slash their bodies with knives. These knives are so sharp that they can cut even iron and stone. How easily, then, do they cut human flesh? Such various and innumerable sufferings are the lot of all those who have used evil language. There are many such teachings in the scriptures. End quote. Among the neighbouring hells of the hell of scorching heat there are a place called Fundarakia, where, quote, the bodies of the sinners are roasted in a flame until there is not a spot as large as a mustard seed which is not burned. All the people in this hell keep saying to one another, all ye, come quickly, come quickly. Here is the lake Fundarakia. Here is water to drink. Here is the cool shade of a wood. Lured on by these words, the sinners rush forward, but on either side of the road are pits filled with fire into which they all fall, and where they are consumed skin and bone. After a little while they come to life again, and the terrible heat makes them long for the water, and so they press on until they enter the place of Fundarakia. Now the flames of Fundarakia are 500 yojanas in height. When the victims have been burned to death in this flame, they come to life again after a little while, and then this process is repeated as before. Into this hell fall all those who have starved themselves to death in the hope of thus earning their way into heaven, also those who have taught this heresy to others. End quote. The place called Dark Fire Wind, where, quote, the sinners are carried up into the sky by an evil wind, and as they have nothing to which they can cling, they are twirled around and around like the wheel of a cart, so that they become invisible to the eye. And while they are being thus twirled around and around, another wind arises which is sharp like a sword, and which cuts them into pieces as small as grains of sand, and then scatters the fragments in all directions. By and by the fragments come together again, and the victims come to life once more, but only to be cut up and scattered as before. This process goes on endlessly. In this way are punished all heretics who hold the view that all existence is divided into things permanent and things impermanent, and the view that the impermanent is the body and the permanent the 4 great elements. End quote. Among the neighbouring hells of the hell of great scorching heat there are a place which is filled so completely with flames that, quote, there is not a spot as large as the eye of a needle where there is no flame. Those who have violated pure laywomen fall into this hell. End quote. A place called fully receiving all suffering, where, quote, the hell wardens, taking out their swords of flames, skin the victims from head to foot, and then, without cutting the flesh, they place the raw skin bodies on the hot iron ground and roast them. Then they pour over them molten iron. In this way they are tortured through immeasurable 10,000,000 years. Those who have deceived nuns by giving them strong drink and destroying their souls, that they become immoral, fall into this hell. Also those who have corrupted women with riches. End quote. Among the neighbouring hells of the hell of suffering without interruption there are a place called Iron Plain, Fox-Eating Place. Here, quote, over the body of the sinners in this place, the flames of fire rage for a distance of 10 yojanas. Among all the hells, the torments in this hell are the most severe. Iron tiles rain down upon the victims, crushing their bodies and pulverizing their bones. Foxes with flaming jaws continually come and devour them. In this way the victims are tormented without ceasing. Those who have set fire to pagodas and temple buildings, burned images of Buddha, burned the homes of priests, and burned the bedroom furniture of priests, fall into this hell. End quote. The place called Black Vomit Place, where, quote, the victims are so hungry and thirsty as a result of the heat which burns their bodies that they devour their own flesh. When, however, they have apparently consumed themselves, they come to life again and begin once more to devour themselves. There is in this place a black-bellied serpent which coils itself around the bodies of the sinners and then gradually devours them from feet up. Then again the victims are placed on a hot flame and roasted, or they are thrown into a large cauldron and boiled. Their bones and flesh are melted like ice in the spring, and this mass, mingling with the fire, unites to make one huge raging flame. In this way the victims must endure inconceivable tortures of one kind and another for millions of years. Those who have stolen anything offered to a Buddha and eaten it fall into this hell. End quote. A place called Rain Mountain Gathering Place. This is, quote, an iron mountain 1 yojana in height which falls on the victims, pulverizing them like fine dust. After this they come to life again, but only to be crushed a second time. There are here also 11 flames which completely enfold the victims and burn them. Sometimes the hell wardens take their swords and slash the bodies of the sinners all over and then pour molten lead into the wounds. Then again the sinners are afflicted with the 404 ills, and in various ways they are tortured for immeasurable millions of years. Those who have stolen and eaten offerings made to a pratyeka Buddha fall into this hell. End quote. The place called Bardo, where, quote, there is an evil bird called Ember. The size of this bird is that of an elephant. It has a bill like a sword, and this sends forth a flame. Seizing the sinners, it carries them with flapping wings high up into the sky, and after soaring about for a while, drops them, so that they plunge down like huge boulders, and with such violence that their bodies are broken into hundreds of thousands of bits. But the fragments assemble again, and the victims come to life, only, however, to be seized a second time and carried up and dropped. Their feet are lacerated by sharp swords, with which the road is studded, as thickly as growing grass. Dogs with teeth of flames come and gnaw and then devour them. In such ways they are tortured without ceasing. Those who plotted against others and starved them to death fall into this hell. Further accounts may be found in the scriptures. End quote. The 8 cold hells. These hells are located on the same level as the 8 hot hells, but in comparison with them, where fire is dominant, here the karmic environment is composed of snow mountains and glaciers, and the winds are ravaging blizzards. All the beings born there are naked and experience the following torments. 1. Hell of blisters. Buddha. In this hell, various ice blisters erupt on the body of the beings while they are submerged in extremely cold water or blasted by the wind. 2. Hell of burst blisters. Buddha. Here the blisters become open sores. 3. Hell of clenched teeth. Atatata. Here the teeth of the beings are tightly clenched due to extreme cold. Master Vasubandhu explains that atatata indicates the noise that the damned make under the bite of the cold, thus the name of this hell. 4. Hell of lamentation. Hahava. In this hell, the beings greatly lament while their tongues are paralyzed and find it difficult to breathe or scream. This hell too has its name after the specific noise made by the tormented beings. 5. Hell of groans. Huhuva. Here the voices of beings are cracked and long groans escape from their lips. It is again a hell named after the sound of pain specific to those born there. 6. Hell of Utpala-like cracks, Upala, or the blue flower hell. The skin of beings born there is blue and splits into 4 petal-like pieces. 7. Hell of lotus-like cracks, Padma, or the lotus flower hell. Here the red raw flesh of beings become visible, and the cold makes it split into 8 pieces, which makes it look like a lotus flower. 8. Hell of great lotus-like cracks, Mahapadma, or the great lotus hell. Here their flesh turns dark red and splits into 16, 32, and then into innumerable pieces, thus looking like a large lotus flower. Worms penetrate the cracked flesh and devour it with their metal beaks. According to the sacred text, the lifespan in the first cold hell lasts as long as it would take to empty an extremely large container filled with sesame seeds by removing a single grain every 100 years. The lifetime and suffering in the following 7 cold hells is progressively 20 times more. The Jata Kamala describes that the beings in the cold hells dwell in darkness. Quote, in the future life of a nihilist, a cold wind will rise in that place of absolute darkness, since it will make you so ill that even your bones will be destroyed. Who will want to enter there to help you? End quote. In his letter to a disciple, Master Chandra Goman said, quote, an incomparable wind pierces your bones. Your body shakes and freezes. You bend over and shrivel. Hundreds of blisters rise and pop. Creatures born from them eat and claw you. Fat, lymph, and marrow ooze out. Exhausted, teeth clenched, all hair standing on end, you are tormented by wounds in your eyes, ears, and gullet. Mind and body stupefied by pain, you dwell in the cold hell and emit a pitiful wail. End quote. The ephemeral hells. The ephemeral hells adjoin the hot hells and cold hells, but they exist in other regions too. Master Vasubandhu said, quote, there are pradasika, ephemeral hells, created through the force of individual actions, the actions of one being, of 2 beings, of many beings. Their variety is great, their place is not determined, river, mountain, desert, and elsewhere. End quote. The suffering experienced in these ephemeral hells varies considerably in both time and place. Thus, beings condemned by their own evil karma to be born in them may be trapped inside a stone, encased in boulders, held on the bottom of various lakes, boiled in hot springs, frozen in ice and glaciers, burnt in fire, eaten alive by various worms and insects, etc. Some also suffer by identifying their bodies with objects that are constantly put to use, such as mortars, brooms, doors, mats, hearthstones, pillars, ropes, etc. There are many sacred texts in which the causes for birth in these ephemeral hells are presented, like appropriating or exploiting the property of the Sangha, acquiring large amounts of money for teaching the Dharma or for blessings, sacrificing animals, stealing from the public funds, adultery, and so on. Now, after reading and contemplating the above descriptions and explanations of the various hells, we should all ask ourselves individually, what if I will be born in these hell realms? How could I endure such horror and pain? Bodhisattva Nagarjuna said in a letter to a friend, quote, sinners who hear of the boundless sufferings in the hells, separated from them only until the mere termination of their breathing, and are not completely terrified, have hearts as hard as diamonds. If you are frightened merely by seeing paintings of hell, by hearing of it, recalling it, reading about it, and by representations of it, what need to mention experiencing the fierce actuality of it? End quote. Please take each one of the specific sufferings in the hells and think deeply on them. Wouldn't you better accept Amida's helping hand that is extended to you out of his infinite compassion and escape those places of torment? Namo Amida Buddha.